Hello, welcome to Hillary's Whiskey Lounge. I'm Hillary, and this is my lounge. This is the third video that I've made for you, especially for beginners, of how to pick out, how to choose, how to appreciate, how to taste, and how to really enjoy your single malt Scotch whiskey. The first video I did was purely introductory. The second video I did was about little glasses and the best kind of whiskey glass. Today I'd like to talk to you about a little mixture of things. The first being the regions of Scotland. And because I haven't figured out how to do any graphics on YouTube yet, and because I'm a teacher, I'm going to go old school and show you this map of Scotland. This happens to be a map of Scottish clans, but nevertheless, it's a map of Scotland. Sorry if it's glary. The first region of Scotland is probably the shortest that I'll talk about, and that is the lowland region of Scotland. There are a couple distilleries, most notably Bladnoch, which is in the lowest little corner over here, where my friend Graham Parker lives of the Hoof GP. So shout out to Graham Parker. He's an amazing cow hoof trimmer. If you haven't checked out his videos, check them out under the Hoof G as in George, P as in Peter, the Hoof GP. If you like that kind of thing, it's sort of like cow hoof trimming ASMR. It's very entertaining and relaxing, and Graham is a very good guy. So anyway, Graham and the Bladnoch Distillery are in the lowlands. This main region around Scotland, not including this teeny tiny little bit here, this region over here is called the Highlands. So you may have heard of Highlanders and Highland clans. This huge area is what most people refer to as the Highlands. There are some islands that are coming off of the tip of Scotland, the Orkney Islands, and even Shetland, which would be like way up here. Some people include the Orkneys and Shetland as the Highlands. Some of them include them in the range called Islands. I like to call them islands, but it's really up to the people of Orkney what they like to be called. Highland Park whiskey is part of the Orkneys, and that's way up here. And given the name Highland Park, they probably do refer to them or think of themselves as being from the Highlands. And so I'm going to show you some scotches that come from these areas as well. Probably the most famous region of Scotland for Scotch is this teeny tiny little region that follows the River Spey. And in Scotland, by the way, most rivers are called the River blank, the River Spey, the River Dee, and so on. So any land that's around those areas are called Dee side, Spey side, and so on. So this little region that follows along the River Spey, and the Spey is a beautiful, crystal clear, babbling brook kind of river. And it's because of the River Spey and its incredible qualities, clean, crisp, fresh, cold, that many distilleries have popped up there. And so the Speyside distilleries those are probably the most famous ones that you've heard of. Glenlivet, the Macallan, Glenfiddich, and Glenallachie, which I'm going to show you. But even though Glenallachie is kind of over in this region, it's still included in the Speyside group. So Speyside, so those are the ones that have popped up along the Spey River. Another very famous region of Scotland for its single malt is the island of Islay. That's Islay. It's not pronounced Islay or Islay, it's Islay. And it's its own island. You need to take a ferry to get there, or you can actually fly into Islay from the mainland. Islay is home to, most famously, the peaty scotches like Laphroaig and Lagavulin. So I'll show you a couple of those in a little while. And then, let's see, then we have two more regions. One is a peninsula all by itself, and it's a little town way down here. I'll see if I can get close. How close can I get? Is this teeny tiny little town almost at the tip of this island called Campbellton. Campbellton is home most famously to the wonderful, wonderful Springbank, Glengyle, and Glen Scotia distilleries. And they're known for having this wonderful flavor and aroma called the Campbellton Funk. We're going to get into that. Those are wonderful distilleries. I'm very excited because I'm going to visit them for the first time in a month. Yay! So that's Campbellton, which is kind of in this peninsula. Is that Argyle? Yeah. Okay. So in this little peninsula. But the final group is just called generically the islands. Some people include the islands they sort of mass them into the group of Highland whiskeys, but these islands have such distinct characteristics in their whiskeys that I agree with the people who say that the islands are their own group. So most notably in the island group is here's Arran and the Lochranza distillery, but this is the Arran Island. There's Lochranza and Lag, and they're both owned and run by Lochranza, which is on the island of Arran, and that's spelled Arran. I'll show you one of their bottles. There's, let's see, going this way, there's the Isle of Mull, and Mull gives us Lecheg, and Lecheg is actually a little smoky one. Not to be outdone by its Isla cousins, but Lecheg and Tobermory give us, am I in the right place? Yeah, here. Lecheg and Tobermory give us, or are from the Tobermory distillery that's in the north of Mull. And way up here is the Isle of Skye. Talisker is probably the most famous of the Isle of Skye distilleries. And just to the north of Skye is this little teeny island that you can take a quick ferry boat ride to called Raasay. And Raasay has just come out with its, not just, but it's up and coming out with some of its very young whiskeys, but very, very good. And their bottle is absolutely beautiful. I'm going to be visiting Skye and Raasay also in the next month. So that's it for the islands. Again, there's Raasay, Skye, Mull, Tobermory, and Arran. And then its own phenomenon is Islay. Also, its own phenomenon is the little town of Campbellton, which used to be Scottish or Scotch whiskey central back in the day. And then the Highlands, and then the Lowlands, and finally Speyside. So I'm going to be showing you some whiskeys from those regions. I know you're not tasting them right now, but I'll show you what they look like and tell you some of the main characteristics of them, except for, again, the lowlands, which I don't have any of. So sorry about the going old school here with my graphics. This is really it. But again, there are so many other contributors and creators of about Scotch whiskey who have incredible graphics. One being Phil of First Fill Whiskey. He's out of New Zealand, and he's one of the main guys that I watch for my whiskey knowledge, and I'll go into some other guys too. But Phil is great with the graphics and his just overall production. So Phil, yay! Thank you so much. The next thing I'm going to show you. Wow, I'm thirsty. I need a sip of something. The next thing I'm going to show you in this random parade of video number 3 today is how to open a bottle of Scotch. This is a nice new bottle of Glenmorangie. This is technically a Highland malt, even though it's in the Highlands. It's just north of Inverness. And Inverness, anytime you see a town name called Inver with some other word like Ness or Gary or so on, that is a little town that's just on the inlet of a loch. So I'm sure that all of you have heard of Loch Ness, And so Inverness is a little town that's just at the pretty much at the opening of the loch. So so if you follow the phenomenal series Outlander, you know exactly what Inverness is and where it is. So anyway, I'm digressing. This is Glenmorangie. I think that this actual bottle has been discontinued, this 12. I might be wrong about that. But anyway, I picked this one up because it's a nice basic beginner whiskey. So I haven't had a bottle of Glenmorangie for probably 3 years or so. So it was a little strange kind of sitting in my cart, like, what am I doing buying this Glenmorangie? But it's a great beginner's whiskey, like I said. And when we start doing our tastings, I'm going to take you through probably starting with this Glenmorangie. Okay, so on your basic bottle of whiskey, most bottles, by the way, that are bottled in Scotland for the UK are 700 milliliters, and you always see the milliliters on the front. And then the ones that are bottled for the United States are 750 milliliters, which I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's a law in the United States that all bottles of whiskey, whether they're Canadian or Scotch or Japanese, have to be a certain number of milliliters. But I really feel for for the malt masters in Scotland, because that means that they have to make two different kinds of bottles. They have to make the 700 mils for them and the 750 mils for the United States. So you'll see the label here. The label usually, of course, has the name. It says where it's from. Like this will say Highland single malt Scotch whiskey, or Highland single malt whiskey. It'll give a little blurb like aged in bourbon barrels and blah blah blah. But some, the special some, will also say on the front non-chill filtered and no color added. And so that's actually for another video. But as far as the physical part of the bottle, this is called the shoulder. Sometimes people think that the whiskey takes on a more mature and regular characteristic once you've drunk down past the shoulder. And meaning probably it's gotten a little bit of oxygen to it. It's gotten to mellow a little bit. So there could be something to that little shoulder myth. But since this is about opening a bottle of whiskey, the top part, this is actually called the capsule. It's usually in most Scotch whiskeys made out of some kind of foil. Once in a while, you'll get just a plastic capsule around the top. I'm not sure why. It could probably just be cost, or maybe they want to show off the cork with just a nice clear plastic capsule. But most of the coverings are this little foil guy, and then you'll see a tab, and that tab is just simply to pull the capsule off. It doesn't pop at you. It doesn't bang. It's not like a bottle of champagne. So you just find the little tab. It's like a little tail, and it's usually pretty durable. And you just pull this along, and the capsule is free. So you can pick up the capsule. Oops, come on, capsule off of this. Ooh, I pulled the cork out too. So, this capsule didn't come off. I guess I'll have to just rip it off another way. Unless it's not supposed to come off. I wonder if it's not supposed to come off. But I have actually a whole jar of the capsule lids there, which I find actually kind of decorative and festive to keep these capsule lids. And then yes, there's that beautiful sound of the cork opening. So opening a bottle of whiskey, just simply put the cork back on. Always store your whiskey bottles upright in as cool and dark place that you can find. Don't store them on their sides. That will disintegrate the cork. In fact, the cork is supposed to stay dry, contrary to what you might think about storing wine bottles on their sides to keep the cork wet. So store your whiskey standing straight up. And that's why in whiskey shops, you'll see them all standing up like this. You'll never see whiskey on its side unless there's been an earthquake or something. Somebody's knocked over the whiskey store. So that's how you open a bottle of whiskey. It's very easy. Like I said, it doesn't pop, it doesn't bang. There are some whiskeys that actually have a screw top. Some people prefer those because they find the screw top a little safer and more predictable than a cork, because yes, it's true, sometimes corks do disintegrate and you might get little flecks of cork, pieces of cork in your wonderful bottle of single malt. But I like the cork. I love the sound. I find the screw cap kind of on the not as fancy side. It's just the snob in me, I guess. So, you know, I'm just going to have a little sip of this. I'm so thirsty. This is just a tiny little shot glass. Look at this. It's got a thistle painted on it. I normally don't drink my scotch out of shot glasses, but I'm just so thirsty right now and I can't reach my Glencairns. Ooh, okay. I do have some water with me, this tiny little pitcher of water. I'm going to do a whole video about water in whiskey and how much to put in. So I'm just going to let that swirl around. I normally do like to let my whiskey sit for just a second, but this Glenmorangie is really nice and light. I'm not worried about needing too much water. Slangeva. That's really nice and fruity and light. Wow, I haven't had this Glenmorangie for a long time, and I have missed appreciating it. Okay, in case you're wondering, Slangeva is basically the toast, the cheers in Gaelic. This is what it looks like written out. And if you know Gaelic, then you understand the letters here and how things are pronounced. But yes, this is Slangeva. And this is what it looks like. You can say slunge too if you want, but it's, I think, a little more proper to say Slangeva. That's what this looks like. This little card was given to me, compliments of my friends at Tyndrum Whisky. Tyndrum at the Green Welly stop, which is about 40 miles or so, 20 to 40 miles so north of Glasgow. And I order a lot of my whiskey from these guys at the Green Welly stop. I'm gonna come and visit you guys in a month as well, so get ready. But I do order a lot of the whiskeys that I can't buy here in the U.S. from the Green Welly stop. And that's Green Welly, W-E-L-L-Y stop in Tyndrum, and that's spelled T-Y-N-D-R-U-M. See, I really need to learn how to put all of these links down below. Down below, where is below? I guess below where my face is. So, all right, the next thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to pick up the phone and I'm going to show you what some of the different whiskeys actually look like based on the kind of cask that they're aged in. And cask, you know, is the great big huge wooden barrel, and it's used to store the whiskey. It has to be stored for over 3 years to be classified as Scotch single malt, and it has to be stored in there. And based on what was in that barrel or cask before, whether it was American bourbon or Spanish sherry, that will impart an amazing flavor and aroma to the whiskey itself. But we're going to spend a whole video on that, and I'm going to direct you to other creators who have fantastic videos about how whiskey is created. But let me grab my phone, and sorry, I'm going to take you through and show you my lounge. And it's a little different because it's daytime here in California where I'm filming, so it doesn't look as lounge-like as it could, but it's just it's basically a den, and I have this wonderful shelf that my son helped me put together. And I used to have so many more bottles of whiskey and less stuff, but now that I've really come to know the kinds of whiskeys that I like, I'm getting fewer and fewer different types of whiskey, and focusing on the ones that I know I like. Once in a while, I'll be adventurous and try something new, though. But the shelf is being more and more filled with things from Scotland and about Scotland, and books and glasses and trinkets and so forth. So I will show you what some of these are. So first of all, Bonnie Scotland, yay. The first one I want to show you is my little collection of Scotch from Campbellton. So the Campbellton was the one, that little sort of peninsula down on the west coast, really pretty southern. Actually, it's probably in line with some of the lowlands. And again, the most famous whiskey from, or in recent memory from Campbellton is Springbank. So as you can see, I have a few Springbanks. Glen Scotia and also Glengyle make their whiskeys from there. They're pretty light in color unless you specifically get a sherry aged bottle. Here's my bottle of, or my bunch of corks. Yeah, just a few corks there. And then this is my jar of those little capsule tops. So it's kind of fun. I don't know if I should be proud or ashamed and embarrassed of all of those. Okay, so here is my island shelf. Here's Lecheg. This one happens to be an 18. I haven't opened it up yet. And also, I haven't opened it up, not just because I don't want to, because it's my special 18. It's really because the Lecheg is peated, and I've kind of been staying away from peated lately. So the Lecheg is the one from the island of Mull, from the Tobermory distillery. And then this guy is kind of new. This one is from, oh, did I forget to point out Harrison Lewis on the map? Very northern Outer Hebrides Island. This is the Herrick. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but this is a nice new up-and-coming distillery. As far as I know, it's the only distillery on Harris. Okay. Harris is where our friend Doogie McLean lives part of the time, and produces some of his weekly little wee concerts. So shout out to Doogie McLean. And then here's Aaron. This is from the Aaron Distillery. Do I have this? Ah, yes, I do. Have it open. Okay. So I'll pour you a little of that. Aaron makes a nice range. I might have you begin with this as well as the Glenmorangie. It's really nice, simple, straightforward, not too complex, not too busy. It's really just a nice, basic Aaron 10. So if you're thinking about what whiskey should I start drinking with Hillary, if you can go out to the store, usually a place like Total Wine and More should have Aaron, or more of an upscale liquor store. So let me pour you out a little bit of this. It's really nice and clear. I mean, of course it's clear, but it's got like a really, really nice, let me pan around here so you can see. Very nice, clear, almost looks like bourbon, and that's probably because it's aged in a bourbon cask. Now, Aaron makes some sherry aged or sherry finished also, and also Sauterne, which is a really nice light wine, a light yellow wine. So Aaron is really one of my favorites. There's even Braille on this label. How cool is that? All right, so that's the islands, my little island group. I found this little plate at the thrift store. Isn't that amazing? Okay, here's my Westies and Scotties collection. All right, here is my little tiny Highland collection. Highland is variable. You can have very heavily sherried Highland like this Aberlour. Glendronach is usually very highly sherried. But then here's this Deanston, and I poured some Deanston over here. You can see that it's very light, it's usually light and fruity. Sometimes it can be pretty oaky, depending on the type you get. Yes, that was me having a little little taste of the Deanston. So these are Highland. Oh, there's this new distillery also that I would classify as being on an island. This is Nicknean. Nicknean's not getting the at all the publicity it should. It's founded by a woman, and it's I love this, but what I love about it mostly is the product that they make. This Nicknean, it's all organic. It reuses so much of its materials. It's really trying to have a low carbon footprint, and these bottles are just absolutely gorgeous. I have a bunch of these old bottles that are empty now, and I'm going to get a glass cutter and try to make a rocks glass or highball glass out of them. But I love Nic Nien, so shout out to them. And like I said, on the islands. Okay. Continuing Highland. So here's my whole shelf devoted to Edredor. Edredor loves to be sherried, nice and dark. I'll show you this up in the light. Ooh, look at that! It's beautiful. It's sweet. It's thick. It's smooth. It's delicious. It tastes like a Christmas cake or raisins or chocolate. So good. Edredor. This is a special bottle of Edredor that was made in cooperation with our buddy Doogie McLean. So this is dedicated to him and his song Caledonia, which is I'd say one of the most popular songs in Scotland from the last, I don't know, however many years, 20 years Doogie had that song. So this Edredor, it's a tiny little distillery. It's so tiny they don't even give tours, but they have some really, really good, delicious stuff. So anyway, Highlands can be light like Deanston. It can be and also Glenmorangie, the one that I showed you before, is from the Highlands, and Highland can also be quite dark and sherried. For the most part, even though some people say, oh, Highland is peated, most of the Highlands that I've come across have not been peated at all. So I think that's kind of a misnomer. All right, let's go down to the only Speyside I have is this Glenallachie, which means the Valley of the Rocks or something like that. I forget what it says. Here you'll see no color added, non-chill filtered. You'll also see the alcohol by volume percentage, where in Scotland they have to be at least 40%, and then in the United States I think 43%. So this one's 700 milliliters. So this bottle was created especially for the UK, although I bought this out here. I think I got this bottle at Total Wine and More. This one is very nice and deep and sherried, this Glenallachie. But this is the only Speyside that I have right now. Okay. And then we're going to go to Islay. Woohoo! Islay is where those scary, smoky, peaty whiskeys come from. We're not gonna have those for a little while. I want you to get on your feet and get used to drinking single malt before we venture into the world of Islay. However, there are two. There's Bruichladdich, which is nice. I actually poured a little bit so you can see what it looks like. Bruichladdich is a nice, clear, and again, of course, it's clear, really nice, light, fruity, non-peated. Although their Bruichladdich other little offshoot is called Port Charlotte, and they make a really nice peated. But I'm sure you've heard of Laphroaig and Ardbeg and Lagavulin. A lot of people in the younger crowd like those peaty ones, but we're not there yet. So we will experiment with them. And another brand from Islay that I really love is this Kilchoman. It's a beautiful brand. They have an extensive line, and it's also on the peated side. I did visit the Kilchoman distillery when I was there visiting Islay a few years ago. They did just come out with this one, which is supposed to be unpeated, although I have to say, for full transparency, I did still detect some smokiness and peatiness to this one. I'm gonna, when I talk to you guys about how whiskey is made, we're going to talk about what exactly smoked and peated means, but it's basically like drinking kind of a liquid ashtray. It's been or a liquid fireplace, some people have called it, but I really don't think it's that bad. But it is very, very smoky, and some people just don't like it. But it's something that I want you to try very, very gradually in some really good high quality whiskeys. There are some people who say straight out, I won't drink anything peated, I won't drink anything smoky, but maybe they just started off with a really bad experience. Okay, all right, so that's the shelf of the Whiskey Lounge. And here is the resident cat of the Whiskey Lounge. Say hi, Noah. Hi. Okay, all right, back to me. I just want to say goodbye to everybody, and thank you if you've made it this far, thank you so much. You deserve a drink. Right now, you should be thinking about probably buying a very simple, probably this Aran right here, or let's see. Oh, I forgot to point out the Bunnahoven. That's also from Isla. That's not peated. Probably something Aran or this Glenmorangie. So find these. You can even find Glenmorangie at the grocery store. So in fact, when I started drinking Scotch, and I really wanted to expand out of the real common ones like Glenlivet and Glenfiddich, which are not unchill filtered, which means they're chill filtered. They are not free of added color, which means they do have added color. They're just too, I think, high on their horse for my liking. I think they're owned by these big conglomerates, which actually Glenmorangie is as well. But if you're going to start on this one, I remember being at the grocery store looking up Glenmorangie, and it actually said, good whiskey for beginners. So find yourself a bottle of this, and you can even open it, practice opening it yourself. Or you can get a bottle of the Aran 10. And you're also supposed to be getting a nosing glass, such as this, or one of those little Glencairns that I told you about. And again, you can find those Glencairn glasses on Amazon for next to nothing, okay? And if you're a Prime member, get that Glencairn shipped to your house fast, because we're going to start tasting very soon. So I showed you a map of Scotland, and we took a look at the famous regions of Scotch. I showed you how to open a bottle of Scotch so you're not afraid of it, and reminded you to store them upright. And I showed you some samples of what the whiskeys from the different regions look like. So yeah, this has been a very, very long video. If you've made it this far, wow, slunge. This has been a long one. So I'm really sorry about that, but I hope you had some fun, and I look forward to seeing you again. If you can, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. Slunjva, everybody, and I'll see you later.